This is the brand new Segway Go-Kart Pro 2, and it absolutely cruises at 27 miles per hour with 15.5 miles of range. It also is actually 3 devices in one, so not only can you rip around and drift with this thing and race with this thing, but you can also use it as a racing setup for gaming. The back comes off, it's a Segway Ninebot S Max, and it is just so fun to use this thing. Like, for example, check this out. We've got paddle shifters, so I can actually shift and simulate shifting through gears while actually racing. Or there's 4 different riding modes if you wanted to go for eco. If you're a beginner, you want to go a little slower. There's race, there's sport, and like I said, there's a manual mode, and you can go up to 27 miles per hour. If that doesn't sound fast, like maybe you just haven't driven something this low to the ground, trust me, it is so fun and so fast. And because you're such a low center of gravity, you can just cruise along, just rip the steering wheel, and you'll start drifting. And if that's not enough for you to drift, there's also a handbrake down here that you can pull around a turn, and I guarantee you will be drifting. We have 2 metal racing pedals, your brake and your gas. We have a racing style seat belt on here and a little bucket seat that holds you in pretty well. It's an extremely low center of gravity, so it's almost impossible to flip this thing. You can see we have a very grippy steering wheel that you'll see also has a lot of buttons in the middle. You don't use these buttons while you're driving. You'll use this one and you'll use the paddles if you want to. But the rest, as you'll notice, is a gaming setup because you can actually connect this and use it as a gaming controller for a full simulation experience, and you actually have haptics in the seat for 360-degree feel, and it actually feels like, you know, your car is crashing or bumping into things. It's so cool that that is integrated into this when you're not out ripping on it like a go-kart. You can see right here we have a speaker. This speaker works for engine sounds, so you can actually simulate as if you were driving it. It would sound like a gas engine. Or what I like to do, I'm not a big fan of engine sounds, I would rather use this as just a regular Bluetooth speaker, which you totally can do, and play music while you're doing time trials or racing or driving around or whatever. You'll see, as I mentioned, on the back right side, right under this little spoiler, which by the way, we have a nice flag on there so people see you. You'll see nice drifting tires on here. The handbrake, if you wanted to pull that up, it's a manual handbrake. It just presses against the tire there and on the other side. And while this would be really fun for kids, it's not just a kid's toy. It actually has an adjustable chassis. As you can see right here, there's little holes for different height riders. I am 6'2", so significantly taller than probably a lot of people riding this, and I can definitely fit in there. It's not the most spacious ride. My knees are quite high, but like I said, basically anybody could fit in this, and you could drive it. It's pretty fun. This also has 4,800 watts of power in the back. Like I said, this is actually a Ninebot S Max. So there's Velcro straps back here you could take off, take this entire thing out, and you just screw on the knee bar, and you can use this as a Ninebot S Max. It's a self-balancing scooter. As a side note, this is the knee bar, so it'll connect onto the Ninebot Max using 2 screws down on the bottom. Personally, I don't really use that all that often. It's cool that you have that as a 3rd device in one here. But as a go-kart, it's just so much more fun for me to like race around, have time trials and stuff like that. You can also see on the controller in the front, we have a display there. It shows you the Bluetooth connectivity. So if it's connected to the Ninebot S Max, you can also see your speed in the middle, and you can go and change between the different modes. You can see with this little red thing, you can push up and down for race, sport, eco. And if you want to go to reverse, you could either use this or you could double press the brake pedal. It beeps, I don't know if you can hear that right now, but it's beeping, and then you're actually able to go in reverse there. Charging this is super simple. There's a little cable on the back. It just plugs into the Ninebot S Max that's powering this entire setup. All right, so let's get into a top speed test.
All right, max speed test, starting off in race mode. Yep, 27 miles per hour.
Something I noticed with this is that the top speed does diminish as the battery drains. So at about half battery, your top speed goes from about 27 down to somewhere around 24 miles per hour. I'll put that in metric for my international friends around the world. All right, so the battery's at 50% right now. I'm gonna do a full speed trial right here from standstill, and 3, 2, 1. Wow, still plenty of pickup on that. Man, this never gets old. This thing is so fun to ride. That's cool. The brakes are interesting because they're not mechanical brakes. It's more of an electric braking system. So let's get into a braking test. You'll see from full speed how long it actually takes to stop not using the handbrake. If you use the handbrake, you'll obviously stop a bit quicker. And I don't know if I really even need to do this test, but I'm going to do a drift test as well, just to kind of show you how easy it is to get this thing to drift. You barely have to do anything. Just driving at even a moderate speed, you can just turn the wheel and you will drift. Or you could use the handbrake, but let's get into that test. You'll see what I'm talking about. Looking a little bit closer at the aesthetics of this and how it's constructed, you can see we have the front unit, the back unit, both connected by these two bars, which I said are adjustable. You can see you have your nice little plastic here for your footwell, where your foot's going to sit. You can bring your foot back if you're not putting it on the brake. Up here is when you're obviously using it a little bit more. You have your little tie rods for steering. These look like they would be adjustable. So if it's not driving perfectly, that should be very easy to adjust, I would assume. We can see this is actually adjustable as well, so you can kind of adjust it left, right, or up, down as well, and you can kind of tighten some set screws and lock that into place. We have, overall, I think a really nice aesthetic. I love the blue accent on the gray and black here. We have a reflector down on the side here. On the back, we have our light from our Ninebot S Max. You can kind of see it down there. It's middle of the day right now, so it's harder to see that. We have our light there. We have a reflector up here, a red reflector there. Going around the other side, of course, another reflector down there. And in the front, we have a cool little blue light right in the middle here. It's kind of hard to see again in the day. Maybe you guys can see that on the video. And what I think is cool is it's a metal frame, plastic on the top, so it's a little more durable there. And on the bottom, we have a little rubber thing here to kind of act as a bumper in case you hit anything, in case you run over anything, but clearly an incredibly low clearance. See if I get my camera lower to the ground here. Such a low clearance on this thing. Like, look at how low that is to the ground. Basically impossible to flip this thing. Now, there's also a phone app, as you can see right here. It connects to all the different Segway devices I have. If I open up the Segway Go-Kart Pro 2 right here, it shows me the range, my distance remaining, what gear I'm in. So right now it's in park. You can see right there. The Bluetooth connectivity, you can see just the device right there. You could lock it if you wanted nobody else to drive it, for example. You can also change the modes, the lighting effects. Let's go to light effects. That's pretty cool. You could change it from dynamic breathing to full color breathing. You would see firmware updates right here, and then down here, a little manual, more functions if you want to see more stuff down here. So like driving alarm, max speed limit, anti-theft stuff, and what units you're using depending on where you live in the world. Oh, and let me show you the speaker real quick as well. It's a regular Bluetooth speaker, so you have to charge it separately by USB Type-C. It just kind of clips on. There's a little strap, a silicone strap that holds it in, and there's 5 buttons on there. So like I said, it does work as a regular Bluetooth speaker. You have playback controls.
We're talking a little bit about the gaming aspect of this. I'm by no means a hardcore gamer, just very casual, and I think this is a really good gateway into a racing sim. You can see right here the controller actually magnetically snaps on, and so it can be recharged by USB Type-C if you ever needed to. I've never plugged it in for anything. You can see we have our controls here. We've got our little paddle shifters on the back. There is no joystick, so for some games, you may need to have a mouse or a different controller nearby. Additionally, this is only compatible with PC. So you plug in a little USB stick for wireless connectivity. This does not work with Xbox or PlayStation, at least not right now, as far as I know. You can see the steering is nice and grippy. It is self-centering. So as long as you prop up the front, which you will want to keep this off the ground so these wheels don't have too much resistance there, you can see it is self-centering using the springs right down here. The pedals are very responsive, but fair warning here, be very, very careful. I recommend when you first set this up, you want to make sure that on the top it does say game. When it's connected, it'll say game right there. If it does not, that means it is on, and so you could potentially floor it and drive directly into your TV. So I would also recommend just gently tapping the gas right here before you start playing a game to make sure that you're not accidentally in go-kart mode and you don't drive into your wall and hurt yourself and potentially break your TV. Additionally, when you're playing games, the haptics will be in the seat here. It's also a very comfortable seat with some rubber cushions on either side right here, a little foam pad on the back and on the bottom. I find it's incredibly comfortable to sit in this for a fairly long amount of time. And of course, the haptics, like I said, do make it feel much more realistic when you're driving over bumps or bumping into walls or anything like that. To power the go-kart on, you just press the on button on the Ninebot Max here. And like I said, you could charge it using this little port right here. There was a cover. Additionally, if you ever need to replace the batteries in here, you can turn this little lock on the front, lift that up, and your batteries are right down there. They don't really use a ton of power, so they should last a fairly long time. But if you ever need to replace them, that's where they are. Additionally, with setup, if this either does not pair with the Segway Ninebot Max when you're in go-kart mode or in gaming mode with the USB stick, you hold down both shifters, the down button and the A button at the same time for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then you'll see this little Bluetooth icon appear and it'll pair automatically. So here in a slightly darker environment, you can see not only the rear lights, but also down there, the undercarriage lights. That is what you can actually change from breathing to pulsing and different things you can have it set up to do in the app. It's not particularly visible unless you're in a darker, maybe like a racing circuit or something like that. Outside in daylight, you'll never see it, and I wouldn't recommend driving this at night in public anyway.
So other things to know about this. It's $2,300 MSRP, but I'm already seeing sales. It's under $2,000 now, about $1,900. I'll have it linked down below in the description. You can see the latest price. It's an affiliate link. You don't have to buy through there if you don't want to. But if you find this video helpful, it does help the channel if you go through that link. Like I said, I don't really care if you get it or not. My objective here is to tell you more about it. And with that in mind, there are a couple drawbacks to be aware of. One of them, in my opinion, is the braking. So in a little racing circuit, it's not a big deal, but you want to be careful and kind of aware that it does take a little while to brake. In addition, you really need to make sure the Velcro straps on the back are on tight, or else from full speed, when you brake, you feel it kind of lurch forward a little bit. It's not the smoothest braking experience. For the setup that it is, like, it makes sense that it brakes like this, but it's something you want to be aware of. Don't try going full speed and expecting to stop on a dime without hitting like something that could potentially be dangerous, right? Keep that in mind when you're driving this. Another thing is, as a taller rider, I totally fit in here, but it would be nice to have it like one notch further, have one extra notch on the chassis to extend it a little bit more. I think a lot of adults would find that more comfortable as well. Even like a more average height adult would probably find that pretty enjoyable. And then drawback number 3 is that it's not particularly easy to lift up and put it in like a truck bed, for example, assuming you're not riding it just at your house, which if you are, totally disregard this. But if you want to ride this anywhere else, in a parking lot somewhere, at a raceway, on a like trail or whatever you're allowed to do, you're going to need at least 2 people to lift it. You kind of have to lift the front because it's such a low center of gravity. You kind of have to lift it from the side on the chassis. The back has nice handlebars, so that's easy to pick up. But I wouldn't expect to be picking this up alone, especially often. It's very cumbersome to do that. And the last drawback is that this thing is just literally so fun to use that you basically have to buy at least 2 of them so you have another one to race against. Time trials are cool, but I already know I'm definitely going to be buying a second one of these so that I can have some friends racing me in a parking lot, set up a little like track. This thing is just, it is the most fun device I've probably ever used, ever owned. I think everybody's going to have a good time with this. I have a really good time with this. And the fact that you can use it as a 3-in-1 means it's not just taking up space in your garage. You can actually use this as a gaming setup, put it in your basement, in your gaming room, whatever. But like I said, it's a heavier device, so carrying it up to a gaming room is going to be something that you probably need 2 to 3 people to actually make that happen. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Segway Go-Kart Pro 2. Overall, super fun. Highly recommend it. I mean, if you've watched a video this long, you probably agree that it's just a really cool device. There's not a lot to complain about here. As is, I really enjoy it.
You know, this is a hell of a lot of fun.